Hi, this is Vic,
And this is Chris.
known as Vic Chris.
We are embarking on an adventure to truly understand the timelessness and relevance of British literature.
And we have discovered some of this timelessness and these classic ideas through some of Shakespeare's sonnets and John Donne's poetry dealing with love and self-infatuation and admiration and these qualities about humans that just persist for all ages.
But specifically what we want to talk about today is Jonathan Swift, the king and the master of timeless, truly timeless satire.
And he was really able to capture the problems that humans deal with and the ways that we try to combat them. And it's not particular to his time. It really still applies to us today. And
Right.
So we're going to look at that and how other people interpret that. Yeah.
But it certainly is worth noting that we didn't start the satire.
First, we visited with Jordan, and we presented her with an excerpt from Swift's The Ladies' Dressing Room and asked her what she made of it.
His hands in search of hope. Oh, never may such vile machine be once in Celia's chamber seen. Oh, may she better learn to keep those secrets of the hoary deep.
I guess I don't know enough about British literature to say whether it is or not, but Paul's hands in search of hope and never may. Chamber scene, she better learn to keep. Dang, I do not know. So just like take a stab at it?
Sure, wild guess.
Okay, well. Chamber, like dressing chamber. I'm still going off like the idea that somebody's like getting maybe undressed or something. I don't know, maybe it does have to do something with like an affair or something. I'm just guessing this because it's like called Ladies' Dressing Room, the chamber, the hands searching for hope, like, oh, and things normally have to do with sex, so.
So Jordan, she definitely was onto something and onto a theme that Swift presents in this piece. And something that we found interesting was that right off the bat, when we handed her the piece of paper and she was able to look at the words, she noted that hoary was not the type of hoary that she thought it was going to be. And she was thinking of whore, as in, prostitute. And we thought that was interesting given Mary Wortley Montagu's response to this piece where, she depicts the woman as a literal prostitute. And so this was some ingenious wordplay that Swift included, but also an ingenious response that Mary created playing off that idea of the woman as the prostitute, but even more shamefully, she applies more shame to the man in that he's the one buying the service.
It's also important, of course, just to look at the overall theme of the poem. At least in our snippet, we have, oh, never may such vile machine be once in Celia's chamber seen. So, obviously this poem is about these high expectations of being able to conceal the processes and like the pursuit that women go to for the ideal image. And so she was on the right track in that he was saying something of a woman, but when she was interpreting it, she got something of an affair. She kind of understood the snoopiness that Strephon is committing, actually.
And she definitely nailed the idea when she said that, the overarching idea that when she said that things normally have to do with sex. And she that's what Swift and what Swift and Mary are getting to, is that this has to do with this weird distance and conflict between the sexes that is always present, no matter, how much liberal discourse we can expound upon it. It's always going to be a divide there. And so whether, that's in an affair, some sort of love affair between characters, or in this, clandestine operation where Strephon is looking through her stuff and finding out these secrets. But there's that underlying tension between the sexes that is a classical motif.
So for our last segment, we're going to talk about Swift again. We're looking at actually his modest proposal, which suggested that The people of Ireland, during an economic tragedy, they eat their children to maintain population control, give women something to do, and solve the hunger issue. So what we have is very extremist language that Vicky then adapted to a modern world crisis. And really exemplifies all of the factors that make a modest proposal, covering that satire and, again, the extremist language. So, Vicky, why don't you go ahead and give that?
At least 3 million Syrians are refugees outside of Syria, and another 6.5 are internally displaced within Syria. This is a global crisis. Nations like the U.S. are very restrictive on how many refugees it will let in. It is scared about letting terrorists into the country and being assaulted by people who have been given asylum. Many people believe this is wrong and we should let in as many as we can. Others agree that this fear is legitimate. The nation is divided. What if there was a solution to this? Here is our proposition. We let in as many Syrian refugees as possible, but all of them become slaves to those who can afford personal house servants and to large factories. The people whose factory jobs these Syrian slaves usurp will be clandestinely enlisted in the forces of ISIS, and because 27% of Americans are too obese to serve in the military, and 25% of 17 to 24-year-olds do not have a high school diploma, they will be inadequate soldiers in the ISIS force, thus helping to dismantle that group from the inside out. Then, as ISIS is falling apart, we can send in American troops to ultimately kill every single member, simultaneously eliminating the incompetent and obese Americans we first sent to them. So we presented this proposition to a man in the Union named Kirk, and here was his response after we asked him if he could think of any benefits, any other benefits with this proposition.
That's very good. So my political stance is probably leans the opposite direction of this current proposal. So I'm a little strapped for creative ideas of what might also benefit.
If you had to look at it from the other side of the coin.
I'm trying. Yeah. Well, almost certainly, these refugees that we would let in would come in on some kind of, partial citizenship basis and therefore not be entitled to any social services or welfare or medical care or that kind of thing, which would, help make more efficient and keep the costs associated with escalating social programs down, even while they're providing this bulwark of low-cost labor to current factory owners. So I think that might help, balance the budget. Probably could balance the budget.
Can you think of any drawbacks?
Well, apart from the massive loss of humanity and human dignity, and the drawbacks are that we would be replicating all that's wrong about our current system in a lot of ways and driving it further into a state of sort of disrepair that's producing the social unrest that we see.
So Kirk was definitely on top of what we were getting at, and he enjoyed our proposition a lot. And he also, in his discussion, he really proved a point that Swift was probably seeking to prove with a modest proposal, and that was that even these rational people, rational, educated people, because Kirk is a sociology professor, could figure out the benefits that these ridiculous proposals and propositions could solve, and that these are huge issues, and thus they take a huge solution. And so it's really easy to see the commonplace type of the very human issues that sit in here, and also the very human benefits that can come from it. I mean, solving Medicare and taxes, that's something that's very near and dear to everyone's heart and wallet. We also talked to Professor Ralph about Syria and the refugee crisis, and now we're going to listen to what he had to say.
If these individuals are obese and poorly educated, they stand a higher probability of falling upon the tax rolls of welfare and other forms of public assistance. So with them no longer in the picture, that means that the strain of placed upon public services would either lessen, or there would be a better reallocation of funding for other worthwhile people, projects, etc. Of course, that's wholly sad.
That leads to our next question was, are there any drawbacks to this proposition?
Yes, the whole idea of it being completely unconstitutional. So, either go ahead with the program and blast the Constitution, or not and honor it. So, yeah.
And do you want to discuss also the Professor Ralph's take on it, that he also proved that point as well, right?
Yeah, so actually, Professor Ralph actually looks at it from the opposite perspective, whereas Kirk says, well, the people we'll be taking in won't have the benefits of public service. Ralph says the people that we're sending away are what are costing us our public service money. Mm-hmm. So if we get rid of them, then we will be spending less money in general. And then the people we bring in, it's kind of like an exchange, or an exchange student, just permanently and with adults.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Dr. and Victoria Smith, she pointed out Syrian baby burgers, the literal kind of translation of a modest proposal into the modern, could be next on the menu, and why not? That would solve a lot of issues, and also, I mean, that could produce a whole other market that the Syrian slaves could then work in, is the factories that produce the meat of their babies.
Yes.
Because I don't think that we really have the machinery quite to deal with that, because we'd have to have some sort of nurseries in the factories in order to care for the babies until they're of age.
Well, Modest Proposal does talk about having women as breeders.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I'm sure really combine all of this.
These really mash up together.
Welcome to Baby King, serving only the finest Syrian baby flesh around. May I take your name, please?
Donald Trump, 2K16.